Alright, so over the years of reviewing smartphones, I wanted to see what the cheapest smartphone from Samsung's website had to offer. In a world where smartphone technology is constantly improving, I stumbled upon the Galaxy A14, which had a holiday deal that sliced the price down to only $99 US. I mean, there's always a flagship phones being sold for upwards of $1,000, but many of us may not always need or want a phone that expensive, let alone can most of us even afford it with the economy getting tougher day by day. Alright, what's up everyone? I'm Rich, welcome back to the channel. We're in a new year, baby, and a new year comes a fresh start. With that being said, the A14 is a fresh start for me because I didn't see or really think that phones could get this cheap, right? Browsing through the Samsung website, I saw that the A14 was down for only $99 US. It was too hard to resist, baby, so I'm like, alright, might as well just place an order, have it come in the mail and see what it's like. So today, I'm gonna give you guys my review, my thoughts, my experience, and tell you the 5 best things I love about it. So, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first thing I love about the Galaxy A14 is that the body is going to be very usable across all different types of hand sizes. No matter if you're a person with big or small hands, I don't think anyone's going to be complaining about the dimensions of this phone. Upon picking this up, many of my peers were like, is this like a plastic phone? Why? And yes, it is essentially plastic all throughout, with the exception being the display, which is obviously, well, made out of glass. This phone, without a doubt, definitely does feel plasticky handling it. If you lightly push your fingers down at the center of this, you can kind of see that the back can kind of like bend down just a little bit. The cameras also look very plasticky as well, especially around the rims. The lenses themselves are glass, which is nice though. As far as the build quality, this is actually pretty solid as well. I'm not sure what they got going on in the back here. It's all plastic throughout the sides and the back. You hear this? Yeah, I don't know what that is, but it's a cool material, I guess. If you do get a case for this, it is going to get a little bit larger, I would say, and could get a little bit bulky by some users. Now, some of you guys on the channel already know that I'm not a fan of heavy phones. This one especially is coming in at around 202 grams. I think the weight distribution is actually pretty good. It feels like it's evenly balanced. Some of the phones I tested, the weight feels a little bit more heavier where the cameras are. With that being said, this phone surprisingly doesn't feel that cheap. I was expecting something a lot worse than this. So I handed this phone to some of my friends and asked them to take a guess of how much it would cost. So they played around with the camera, handled the body, scrolled across the UI and all that. And then a lot of them told me like 350, 400, 450, even 500, which is kind of crazy. So it fooled them and it fooled me. The Galaxy A14 is rocking a 6.6-inch display at a resolution of 1080 by 2408 pixels. Alright, Samsung opted to use a PLS LCD type display, which is just Samsung's way of calling it their IPS panel, but it looks decent as it's running at a constant 90Hz refresh rate, and this is already more impressive than regular model iPhones out there that are still running at 60 Hz. For example, the iPhone 15 regular model, a phone that came out literally like a couple months ago in September 2023, still running at a refresh rate of 60 Hz. Why are you overcharging us, Apple? But the A14 right here, it's what you would expect from Samsung. A smooth and buttery screen that is just a novel to look at while watching widescreen movies or playing games. Viewing angles did look a little lackluster. As you hold this phone from the sides, it can get a little dim towards the middle. But I do like the colors. They look rich and vibrant, which is way more than what I would expect from this phone. Compare this to something higher end like the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra's dynamic AMOLED display, it fares quite well. Not as deep or affluent, but it's good enough for us and great for the average person that doesn't even pay close attention to colors and vibrancy and all that stuff. It does get up to a max peak brightness of only 480 nits, which is kind of low on the smartphone end, but that's okay for the price tag. I did have a few troubles looking at it, especially when the direct sunlight was coming down on me, or if I was just going through day-to-day activity, especially in the morning. It was a little bit hard to see a screen from the windowsills at a coffee shop or something like that. I guess you could say a good trade-off is that it does help with battery life, which we'll get in soon. Anyways, the A14 does come with expandable storage up to 1 terabyte via a MicroSD card slot, and hey, I have no idea what you're going to fill this up to with that's going to take up a terabyte, but I just love how Samsung gives you these features so that if you ever want to upgrade your phone down the road, you can always swap out your SD card into a new one or transfer all your photos and videos onto the PC. Alright, so before we go any further into the video, I need to tell you guys about this super rare feature that definitely is going to make you and me so much more happy again, and it's to hit the like and subscribe button for me. No, just joking. Anyways, it's that headphone jack, baby. Please come back. I'm glad you stayed here on the A14, and let's be real, not everyone likes wireless earbuds, and not everyone can afford wireless earbuds. I miss the old days of my phone where I could plug in some seriously good sounding headphones into my smartphone and just start listening to some great music right away. I didn't have to worry about connection issues or bad audio quality. This port just brings me back, man, and I'm just so happy that it's still here. So the next thing I love about the Galaxy A14, which is actually pretty respectable for a phone at this price point, is going to be the 5G capabilities, as well as their 8-core Exynos 1330 CPU in here, which is not going to be crushing CPU benchmarks by any means, but you're more probably wondering, is it gonna even work? Alright, so the performance is good enough, and I think it largely depends on where you're coming from. If you're used to higher powered iPhone, 8 chips, or Snapdragon CPUs on the flagship phones, the performance here surprised me because of how lowly priced this phone is. It's noticeably gonna be slower than what we are used to. The big slowdowns at first glance, or something as simple as deleting a couple photos from the gallery, which is gonna have a loading bar up here, or just going back to the previous page on Instagram may take over a hair a second to load. Some apps and games, when you open it, might feel a little bit gimmicky, or you might need to double tap or triple tap for it to open because it didn't register at first glance. But if you're coming from a budgeted phone, an older phone, or something that isn't as highly priced as those models, this phone is going to get you through the processes just fine. Switching between apps and navigating across the UI could be faster. It remains relatively responsive, not nearly as quick as a flagship, but it does work well. Remember, there's only 4 GB of RAM in here, and I would recommend keeping the device care management widget to clean up the memory sometimes. This will help allocate more space for other processes when you need it to. And when I took this over to gaming, I did encounter longer than usual wait times for loading up games here, like Dragon Ball Legends, which took quite a few seconds on the A14. And speaking about gaming, I liked how Dragon Ball Legends performed on here. I think the visuals looked great. The optimization was the best here, as it was running very smoothly during the whole duration of my campaign, with some of hiccups in the drops of frames, but not as much as something like Call of Duty Mobile. Call of Duty Mobile did stay around a constant 60 frames per second, and the experience here was smooth. I did notice a few hiccups where there were more graphically intense moments like explosions of a gas tank or heavy gunfire. That can get just a little bit of annoying. And you know, some simpler games like Snake vs. Block says it's running at 90 Hz refresh rate, but I found the experience to be a little bit laggy. Maybe because of the high motion, or you know, the app maker is not really optimizing the software in a phone for something like this. So performance here is pretty okay. You know, you do get 4 gigs of RAM, and the 8-core CPU is kind of a heavy statement when you say that at first, and it's not the best performing, but it does the job quite well. What is well though is the 5G capabilities, which is going to be lasting us for a very long time if you do go with a carrier that supports that. And as far as the camera and video, this is another thing I really like about this. The A14 has some limitations from a photography perspective, but it still offers an enjoyable photo capturing experience and does do a lot more than phones than 5 to 8 years ago, okay? Pictures don't necessarily look like they were taken with a cheap phone here. I was fooled with some of the results. At this price point, you're getting a 50 megapixel main shooter at an aperture f1.8, as well as a 2 megapixel macro shooter and a 2 megapixel depth sensor, both at f2.4. Those two other lenses aren't substitutes for the wide angle and telephoto lens. There's no ultra wide mode on here. Overall, the phone takes good images considering its low cost. It does well when there's plenty of light and less so when it's dark, but that's typical. Some of these do look washed out or flat when there is not enough light or when there's too much color. I found that the phone had a hard time differentiating between that and tried to process a photo well, but it was kind of off. But portrait photos seem to turn out decent enough. Much of Samsung's post-processing comes to play here and does a decent job at adding bokeh and depth to the background as needed. It's also not going to be the best at capturing fast-moving subjects, or if you're going to be spamming the shutter button a lot, as I think much of the problem comes from a slower CPU. Sometimes you can kind of see a lag, and you might have to tap 2 or 3 more times because the phone didn't register my haptic. It's kind of slow to pick up. What I do love though is that video can be shot at maximum 1080p 30 frames per second, and it's also nice that you do have options to shoot in Samsung's Expert RAW, which gives you full control over the picture settings and shoot in a RAW format, which works great for editing pictures in post or adjusting the ISO and aperture on the fly. Overall, there's a lot of good features on here which I was pleasantly surprised for. Alright y'all, so this is the quality coming in from the Galaxy A14. Overall, it's not too bad, alright? The front-facing camera is doing a pretty good job giving my face enough light. Right now you can see the sun is coming straight down on me, so if you got some pretty good lighting on this, I can see it's working well. I can see it's working well if you want to vlog or something, but let me switch it over to the front real quick and see what that looks like. Alright y'all, so this is what 1080p 30 frames per second looks like on the A14. Honestly, it's not doing that bad of a job. I thought this would be much worse. The stabilization is really good on here. Let's see how the focusing is. So I'm gonna try to get the subject of Christmas lights in frame. Yep, look at that, and let's try to point it to the grass. Oh, snaps in really quick. Bring it back. Hey, Samsung does a great job with stabilization, post-processing, all this stuff. Definitely makes a great phone for what you're getting at this price point. Let me zoom in here to see what 10 times looks like. Can we see the text? ABC. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, there's a lot of grain there, but hey, you're still getting this feature. I'm not complaining too much. You still have this option too. Zooming back out, but let's flip it over to see what it looks like if you're going to be vlogging yourself or something with a back camera. All right, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. And the next thing I love about the Galaxy A14 is going to be the battery life. It's just pretty good. It's very respectable here as they're packing a 5,000 milliamp cell. This was able to get me through, I'd say, 4 days of usage, between 2 to 3 hours of screen time. So if you take the average of that, you're looking around 10 hours of use here. That was a combination of gaming, scrolling through the social media, the web, using the camera, recording video, and all that good stuff. The downside here is that it only supports up to 15 watts of charging, and that's a shame because my AOHI MagCube GAN Plus charger here, which can supply up to 140 watts of peak power that I use for almost all my devices, including my M1 MacBook Air, Dell XPS laptops, Galaxy Books, and Samsung S23 Ultra phones, utilizes the fullest max charging speed provided. The MagCube is built in a slim and lightweight design that makes it super easy and portable to carry it around on the go. Plus, the bright yellow color definitely does make it stand out in my everyday carry bag. It only weighs around 309 grams and is much lighter and compact than other chargers around this price point. Many of my tech heads and subscribers on the channel have asked me what chargers I use for my devices, and that's the one I usually go with a lot. I bring that cube with me everywhere. In fact, it's actually right there charging my phones as we speak. The Galaxy A14 takes around 2 hours to 2 hours and 10 minutes to fully charge from 0 to 100%. The last thing I love about the Galaxy A14, which is not only prone to this phone, but other phones I reviewed as well, like the A24 just a couple months ago, is that phones around these price point is going to be getting up to 4 years of security and Samsung updates as stated by Samsung. This is just really nice to hear, as Samsung does care a lot for other Samsung users out there, like you and I with lower budgeted phones, right? We all see the new phones nowadays that cost upwards to like $1,000 some, and they're always getting the nicest, latest, and greatest feature updates, yada 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 yada. But what about the little guys? What are we doing now? Come on, are we just left for dead? What? No, but Samsung is really gracious with that, and you can expect to use this phone for a few more years. And I wouldn't, be hurt to see that if this phone did die, I'll just pick up another phone. Next 4 years that cost just as much as this one. But yeah, the A14 really surprised me here. The call quality is really nice. Data speeds have not been slow at all. When I'm calling my friends or something like that, they can hear me very nicely. They can hear me very crisp and clear. They actually said that the audio quality on here is much nicer than some older phones before, from like 2019, 2018. So it's just nice to see that tech is really evolving throughout the years. Anyways, those are the 5 best things I love about the Galaxy A14 5G. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this phone. I was really surprised about this. Are you looking at getting it? Do you want to find phones around similar to this price point? Is there something else you want me to take a look at and review? Let me know. Just talk to me down in the comments below, right? What you feel about this phone. If you guys made it this far, hit that like and subscribe button for your boy. We are really pushing it out here in the new year, 2024. So thank you so much for watching, and I love all the support that you guys can give me. With that being said, thanks so much, and until next one, I'll see you then.